Hello and welcome to the Maher's Latin Taylor Show. Today we will be interviewing various members of Great Britain and Russia in order to learn more about religion in those countries. What are the similarities, differences, and something that isn't a similarity or difference between those countries? Learn more right after this commercial break. Let's start with the religious breakdown of people in Great Britain. 60% of people are Christians. 7.2% of people do not state their religion. 2.2% are other religions. 1% are Hindu. 4% believe in Islam. And 26% say they have no religion. This was according to a 2011 survey. However, by 2015, only 42% of people describe them as Christian, while the majority, 49%, they had no religion. This shows a trend that's been going on in Britain of religion becoming less and less important. This has coincided with a decrease in the regularity of church going. Most people do not feel very strong about their religious beliefs. The only exception to this is Muslims, many of whom are immigrants who still tend to be relatively religious. So in order to understand religion in Britain today, we must first understand a bit of its history. So before the reign of before 1534, Britain was pretty much all Roman Catholic. That was the established church, and they were all being happy Roman Catholics. Then in 1534, Henry VII separated England from the Roman Catholic Church. He kind of wanted to divorce his wife, but the Pope wasn't really going to go for that, so he just left Roman Catholicism, and he established the Church of England. Then we had the reign of Edward VI, and there really wasn't much of a change in the status of religion during his reign. He was pretty much a Protestant only for political reasons, so there wasn't much of a change. Then we have the reign of Queen Mary, who was a Roman Catholic and really didn't like Protestants. Yeah, she basically killed a bunch of them. So yeah, not good days for those Protestants. Then we have Elizabeth, and she was a Protestant, and during her reign, a lot of Protestants got appointed to political positions and they gained power. Unfortunately, this kind of opened the doors for some persecution of those Roman Catholics, but there's no progress without, some pain. Then we had the reign of King James, and this was the time of the pretty much Protestantism getting the definite win over Roman Catholicism, and during his reign, they created the King James Bible, which distributed a Protestant form of the Bible to a lot of people, and basically Protestantism became firmly entrenched in Great Britain. Now that we learned that the Church of England was the established church in Britain in the past, this trend has been reversed, and there's now largely a separation of church and state in England. However, some remnants of this established church remain. For example, only the Church of England must display Bible openly in places of worship. There is no corresponding law for synagogues or mosques or any other religion. Bishops also sit in the House of Lords, and while the House of Lords is now largely irrelevant, it still does retain some stalling power, so it is not a completely insignificant post. Also, because of the Act of Settlement of 1701, potential successors to the throne can't marry Roman Catholics, and Catholics can't sit on the throne. Another piece of interesting trivia. And some courts have allowed due to some anachronistic laws Christians to avoid gay equality laws, while not granting this to other religions. Let's start with the religious breakdown of people in Russia. 4.1% of 41% of people are Russian Orthodox, 6.5% are Muslim, 1.4% are another form of Orthodoxy, 1.1% are Tengrists and Neo-pagans. No one knows who those actually are, but they sure do have fancy names, right? 7.9% are other religions, 12.9% are atheists, 4.1% are Christians without a religious affiliation, and 12.9% are atheists again? That can't be right. I think those are supposed to be the people who are spiritual but don't have any religious affiliation. Well, basically the same thing, right? In order to better understand the situation of religion in Russia today, we first must investigate religion in Russia's past. So, under the Soviets, religion was basically suppressed because the Soviets wanted to create an atheist-type country, so they hated religion. They didn't allow for religious schools. They only allowed civic marriages, so you couldn't get married by your priest. They had very high taxes on religious organizations and clergy. In 1929, the law on religious associations said that if you were under 18, you couldn't participate in religious activities. So you couldn't be a member of a church or synagogue or whatever. So that sharply cut down on church membership. And that you could only have religious activities in religious buildings. So you couldn't do anything at your own home. And later they created the Council of Religious Affairs, which basically said, it was basically this council that had dictatorial control over all religion in Russia and just aimed to disrupt religious life as much as possible. And later a law was passed saying that you could only do religious worship in religious places, meaning that you couldn't have like a library in your church. So basically there's tons more examples of these types of laws where the Soviets discriminated against all types of religion in the hope of creating an atheist state. Once communism was removed from Russia and the Russian Federation was formed, there was a religious revival in Russia. Basically anything religious would be considered a religious revival when compared to the communist regime. So the Constitution does guarantee a separation from the church and state, but as you noticed in our first breakdown of religion in Russia, there's a large amount of Russian Orthodox in the state. And the Russian Orthodox religion in reality is favored. The leader of the Russian Orthodox Church was recently granted residence in the Kremlin, and he openly supports Putin. And just like give you an idea of how much they're favored, a Russian MP recently suggested adding a part to the preamble of the Russian Constitution honoring the Russian Orthodox Church. So while there might be nominally be a separation of church and state, in reality it is not quite there. As a final comparison, Britain is experiencing a religious decline while Russia is experiencing a religious revival. In Britain, there's a de facto separation of church and state, while in Russia, the separation of church and state is in name only. And finally, there's some small favoritism in Britain for the Church of England, but in Russia, there's most certainly favoritism for the Russian Orthodox Church. Thank you for watching our informative and super awesome presentation on religion in England and Russia. I hope you continue to watch the television show Zlatan Chug, and goodbye till next time.